many of us experience, particularly at the moment where we seem to be in this kind of hyper growth state of automation and technology, and trying to kind of juggle so many things at once within our recruitment processes. And it kind of does feel like something has to give at some point. But actually, we want to try and create an environment for our candidates and an interview process where something doesn't have to give, and we can balance everything that we need to, predominantly those being an automated, efficient process that is fast and accurate, whilst also giving a very human-centric experience to our candidates and really keeping the people at the forefront of our processes. So today, as you know, we are joined by Louise at Punch Pubs. Do you want to give a quick intro, Louise?
Sure, yeah. Hi, really good to be here. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Lauren. I'm Louise Gallant. So I have been in the recruitment industry for, gosh, about 20-something years. And I've worked both in agency side. I've also been in-house. My latter part of my career has been kind of recruitment in hospitality, have my own consultancy, and having been brought up in pubs, it kind of made sense to join Punch 2 years ago, and I now look after the team that recruit the publicans and our managed partners within our 1,300 pub estate. So yeah, that's me. We started to work with Assess First actually a couple of years ago. We were looking to automate a lot of our interview processes, and we stopped using CVs. We wanted to kind of create a much more diverse way of recruiting and banish some of the bias. So we stopped using CVs, and we recognize that in the world of hospitality, keeping that human touch, that human-centric way of recruiting was really, really important. So for us, it was about getting that balance of automating the processes as best we could, but getting a true understanding of what good looks like within the publicans coming through our recruitment processes, and keeping that personal, that human touch. So quality of hire, as with all of you in different industries, is super important. So we needed to maintain that as well. So we looked at kind of using behavioral and motivations and personalities and that kind of good stuff, and have been working, with Assess First and their platform for the last couple of years. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I just to give a little intro to me, also grew up in pubs actually, which is interesting. Not just myself, my parents ran pubs, and I moved into agency recruitment initially when I first kind of joined the world of work. Worked in agency recruitment, internal recruitment, and then moved over to the HR tech sector in talent acquisition. And interestingly, in recruitment, it was always, when I was hiring into agency, it was very, very people driven. You're trying to understand who these people are in a depth that goes way beyond what's simply on a CV, because similar to hospitality, you're looking for a very specific type of person that can thrive in quite a unique environment. And there's a lot of pressure to put on people in hospitality and in sales as well. So much of our interview processes that we were trying to create was about asking situational questions, trying to understand how someone would respond in a certain environment, putting them into almost like a case study type interview process, a role play. But what we, ultimately did do is find those candidates who had as best a fits as we could identify. But these processes were very long. They were quite in depth. There were multiple stages because it took so long to get the crux of this person to come out, really, and to not just be how people expect to present in an interview. And through my time moving from agency to HR tech and now to Assess First, it's been so rewarding for me and so fulfilling to really find an organization where actually the platform that we've created solves those issues that I've faced time and time again when working in both agency and internal recruitment as well. And it's amazing to speak with people like you, Louise, who've got that experience of kind of the before and after Assess First, and to really see the difference it makes. But right now we're in this time where people are forced to use automation in a lot of ways because of whether it's volume. I saw someone in the comments mentioned that they're getting a very high volume of applications who actually aren't aligned to the role. And how do you simply sift through all of those CVs? Lots of people struggling to attract diverse candidates, maybe looking to grow the breadth of the candidate pools that they can find candidates from. And actually, I've experienced firsthand that Assess First finds some great solutions to that, which I'm sure we'll delve into. But to kick us off, I think, first kind of key point and key takeaway that both you've experienced at Punch Pubs, Louise, and I've certainly experienced even hiring into Assess First, is that we're in a situation now where we've got to understand who a person is. We need to be making sure we're hiring the right individual for the job, as opposed to just the CV that gets them the interview and can get people that job offer. And obviously, when we start looking at kind of more long-term metrics of performance, retention, all those types of things, it's goes way beyond just how well someone can perform in an interview. Maybe just, Louise, you could talk a little bit about how that experience was for you guys, moving away from hiring from CVs to actually having a CV less process, because we're the same. We don't require CVs, candidates can put them in. But what was that journey like for you initially?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the mere question of taking away CVs, created our ops teams to gasp in fear. But what it has meant, whilst we've got used to that, is that it's obviously opened up the market and opened up talent pools for us tremendously. We attract our publicans and managed partners using social media platforms. So TikTok's really
nice.
Really popular for us, and Facebook as well for different demographics and ages, etc. But they have been our two most single popular ways of recruiting, and actually when you're attracting people through social media channels, getting them into your process and into your system as quick as possible is crucial. So having, as you said, Lauren, having long screening processes that take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour to fill out a bunch of questions is just as counterproductive. So we have attracted people with a very, we've automated the application process, but it's been very simple. They come into our system quite swiftly, but we know very little about them. We don't have the CVs. So having an additional layer, if you like, of understanding each individual much better in terms of their behaviors and personality traits is really has been really useful as they've been coming through. So they come through, they complete, they have a chat, they complete the online assessments, and I think it has been it's helped us to create a much better candidate journey as well for those people coming through, whilst maintaining that real kind of personal touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, CVs, the whole way through my career, a big part of what I've done is helping people make good CVs, because obviously it's something I do and have seen every day. But they don't tell you really anything about who this person is. You know, it's
Nothing.
very, very categorizing.
Yeah.
It's easy to really rule people out rather than ruling people in. And especially at the moment where, you know, we're struggling to find great talent, we should be, as you say, broadening these candidate pools and giving as many opportunities as possible for people to show us their potential rather than ruling them out straight away, particularly through automation.
Yeah.
And this is the challenge that I mentioned at the start. You know, we have no choice really but to prioritize efficiency and automation, because we do want to see as many candidates as possible, and we're all working against the clock, right? We need to be hitting our recruitment OKRs. There's gaps in our companies that you know, productivity and ARR is being harmed because the right people aren't in the teams. So we're constantly trying to get these positions filled as quickly as possible. But does that have to be at the detriment of having very accurate processes where we do give the time to analyze these candidates properly? Are we giving enough personalization? And what is the candidate experience really being like? Because I'm sure so many of us have experienced, yes, okay, a candidate isn't right now, or maybe they are, but we simply had to hire somebody else. What are we doing to retain those candidates and keep that candidate pool as buoyant as possible for the future as well? Now, looking into the pros of automation, because this isn't, you know, a webinar to bash automation, right? It brings us so much positivity to these processes. It is improving the quality of hire for sure. We're able to have this kind of, I like to refer to our assessments personally as a third party in our process. It's giving me data-driven insights. It's helping to challenge my own kind of impression of a candidate by basing this on evidence. And of course, it's helping us save time during our recruitment processes as well. So there's lots to like, right? There's lots to thank automation for. How have you found automation, like from a positive perspective, Louise? What's been the kind of pros for having more of an automated process for you?
So obviously, we're super fortunate because the way that we attract candidates, we're actually attracting treble the volume of candidates that we were 2 years ago. So what's really important is obviously to filter that through to the recruitment team. So the benefits for us has been to help us do that. We're very conscious that we don't want to, you know, filter and screen out too many people. And you know, I've just seen somebody commenting on the importance of flexibility around job specs. It's super important that, you know, we really try and open out that talent pool as much as possible. So whilst the benefits of automation have been absolutely crucial for us to filter that down, that you know, on the flip side, there has to be some way of building talent pools, especially talent pools for future potential, and a way of measuring that. So I have an example of we went to a supplier conference, and they had they'd done a mystery candidate kind of application process for Punch and for our, you know, 5 of our competitors, and the automation processes around our competitors they basically chose this one candidate called Charlotte. She didn't necessarily have the traditional experience that you would expect in a publican or managed partner, manager of a pub, and she came through the application process for, you know, us and 5 competitors. The automation processes were really robust for our 5 competitors, and she didn't really get past, I think she had a bit of a computer says no experience with our other pub companies. But luckily for us, she kind of got through to the final stage interview. Now, it turned out that she wasn't suitable for that particular role. But what we learned about her during that whole experience, we were able to give her some really good feedback and talent pool have for the future. So, you know, great potential there.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes back to my point of, you know, whilst automation is crucial, it's really important to try and get that balance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly that. And it's about making sure that one doesn't outweigh the other, and actually finding whether it's a technology or just a process that keeps both of those in balance, and explaining that to your candidates as well, right? Like if they want a fast process, but they also want personalized feedback, you're going to have to compromise. And there are lots of statistics out there, lots of people who have concerns about AI, and whether it is going to be, as you've just said, overlooking those atypical qualities and experiences that actually makes a candidate really great for a position. And also lots of people do think that AI can be manipulated by applicants in order to get the job. So it's very, very important that any kind of automation that you're putting in place, you're aware of whether this is something that can be manipulated by a candidate to improve. And I think this is something CVs are facing a lot of at the moment, right? It's so easy to just go onto ChatGPT and have them create a CV for you, which is really devaluing the CV even more than it has been so far. Now, when we look at the empathy side, this is huge for candidates. We've gathered a lot of research online to find, of course, lots of candidates think that the final hiring decision should be made by humans. Nearly the same percentage of people think that not getting feedback is the most frustrating part of a job application. There's a very negative perception of the employers that aren't personally responding to applications. And actually, there was a research study that found highly automated interviews actually diminish the overall acceptance of the jobs overall, because there is a lower social presence and lower fairness, because these candidates don't feel they're getting enough social interaction with an organization to really feel that the decision to accept a job is the right one for them. So yes, we don't want this kind of very robotic, very automated process if it's at the detriment of building that positive experience, not just for the candidate to leave with a good impression of us, but to actually understand enough about the organization that they're looking to hire for, looking to hire within as well. Anything to say on that at all in terms of the kind of empathy side, the candidate experience side? Anything that you've experienced with that, Louise?
Yeah, well, we're in hospitality, right? So we are all about hospitality and the need for creating a great experience and having empathy with candidates coming through the process is really, really important. Equally, the impression that they have out of the other end, regardless of whether they're successful or not with us, is really, really crucial, that they come away with a positive and good experience, especially if we're going to talent pool them for the future. We want to be front of mind for any good potential candidates coming through. We had prior to you know, taking away the CVs and automating the process, we did have a very heavily automated process, which was based on a lot of behavioral frameworks and lots of processes. Yeah. And I think it really created a barrier for the hiring managers and our ops teams to really work effectively, you know, and swiftly. Their roles are very complex. They're kind of they're marketeers, they're operators, they're lettings, you know, they're letting pubs, they're going through financial processes. Their jobs are really, really busy. And it's really important that we were able to create a process that was as effective for them, but as swift as possible as well, to help them in their own jobs day to day, and maintain the balance. Again, I'll keep coming back to it, between you know, the automated process and the human element.
And I suppose in particular for you, your candidates are, I imagine, quite often your customers, right? So that experience goes way beyond just simply them liking Punch as a potential employer, but actually, how can that harm the brand for your customers as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's high statistics around people coming away with a negative you know, with a negative experience won't come back to your brand. And so yeah, the importance of them having a positive experience is you know, really, really high. We don't necessarily I see the whole assessment process as a not as a decision maker, so to speak. It's very much a support to the whole interview process, and I think we made a decision to make that as open as we could as well. That there's a couple of things that came out the initial profiling of our managed partners and publicans, and enough of a flag, I guess, for us to use it in our filtering process. So if a candidate scores 40% or less, the chance of success in a pub is 0. So that was one data point that we thought was really, really, you know, really useful in that filtering process, but didn't but helped us use the rest of the assessment as a real support.
Yeah. And that's actually specifically relating to the assess first assessment, isn't it? So a candidate that gets less than 40% against the predictive model, has a 0% chance of success. And it is hard. I mean, at the end of the day, so many people who are in talent acquisition now joined the industry when things were very different, and they were much more people oriented. We didn't have the technology. I don't remember this myself, but I hear a lot of, you know, people having CVs posted through the door of a recruitment agency, and that being how you base your conversations in a face-to-face interaction. And ultimately, a lot of us are in this job for this reason. We are human. We love the human interaction. Like, personally, for me, there's still nothing better than even the candidates that are hired into jobs 6-7 years ago, now seeing them in director level positions, and keeping that human interaction at the forefront of what we do is just so pivotal to creating really meaningful processes that actually carry someone's impression far beyond when they leave the interview with us. And whether it's as a customer, whether it's in a buoyant candidate pool, whether it's simply the reputation that we kind of create through the people that we interview as well. And that's why for us at Assess First, the mission of bridging this gap to create very efficient and accurate processes while still maintaining the human element of what we do and keeping that candidate experience so high is so positive and so prevalent for us. And ultimately, the way that we do this is by putting ourselves in the candidate's shoes. And that's why I wanted to use the word empathy to describe creating these interview processes. Because, you know, we have a CV of somebody, we're not able to put ourselves in their shoes. We're actually categorizing them, whether we know it or not, whether it's our subconscious bias or whether it's just simply our experience that helps us understand, well, this person's got this experience and they went to this university, so this is whether they're a good fit or not. There's nothing unique about that person coming to the forefront of that decision. So what we do at Assess First is understand, okay, what makes this person unique? How do they stand out against the rest of the population? And is it those traits that help them stand out? What's going to make them successful within our organization? So we look at the way that they make decisions, not their intelligence, but the way they make decisions. We look at their most prevalent personality traits. And most crucially for me, we look at what drives them, what motivates them as well. And this helps me as a recruiter literally put myself in this candidate's shoes, because I understand them in so much more depth than I would just based off a CV or even a 30-minute interview. What's your kind of take on that, Louise? I know this is super important for you, particularly with the publican roles you're hiring at the moment. Like, what's knowing this information kind of helped you understand?
Yeah, I've always been a big believer in experience isn't necessarily in everything, and there's 5 elements to an individual's makeup, and that's kind of when looking at recruiting people, and that's intellect, values, motivation, behaviors, and experience. Experience being the easiest to change, all the way up to kind of people's motivation, values, or personality, and intellect. And actually, if you, I think this was endorsed by the British Psychological Society, if you recruit based on experience only. So if you're looking at a CV and nothing else and interviewing based on a CV, there is 25% chance of success in role. Whereas if you take into account every other element, so their behaviors using behavioral interviews, their motivations, which is part of what you guys measure, their values, stroke personality, which is also what you guys measure, we're getting higher up the chain and therefore getting much, much harder to change. The importance of looking at all of these is really, really, is really valuable. And an intellect as well, which also is an element of what Assess First looks at. If you take into account all of those elements within an individual, it then becomes from 25% to a 75% chance of success in role, which is huge. So why wouldn't you take into account all of these other factors and actually understanding someone's values, what drives them within that role, and their intellect in terms of their kind of brain horsepower. It's not necessarily how intelligent someone is, but how quickly they process information, and whether that is actually, relevant in the role that they have, which with some of our publicans looking at P&Ls and being able to understand commercially what that means to their business is super important. So understanding all of those other elements of an individual when you don't necessarily have a CV, because what we're saying is, experience isn't necessarily the be all and end all, is super, super valuable. And it also enables our ops teams, it educates them to understand what good looks like within the business, and helps them ask the right questions at interview to understand, what success is going to look like in those roles, and measure that against the person that they're talking to. It's been super successful.
Yeah, and I think that's really crucial. Not everybody, myself included as a talent acquisition professional, not everybody knows what to do with all the data that comes from an assessment. And what we want to do is make people suddenly have to go and take a psychology degree to be able to understand and interpret results, because ultimately, if we're just making the process more time consuming, we're not actually helping. So a huge part of how we create our reports, both the candidate reports and the kind of recruiter reports, is to make them very, very easy to read, very color coded, so that very quickly, based on a score, you understand the candidate's suitability. And essentially that's what we do. So the 3 steps of our process is having our candidates take our assessments. We get their results. We understand, as we've mentioned, the sweet spot between how they make decisions, their motivations and their personality traits. We then actually give you the ability to understand what good looks like within your organization. So at Punch Pubs, you kind of give the assessment to your internal employees. We then use our algorithms to create a benchmark of what good looks like. So we identify those prevalent traits in your top performers. Now, this isn't biased. I think it's really important to remember this. It's not, something that restricts people from having those traits. We're identifying personality traits and motivations that are prevalent across the whole population. And we're actually giving those people who might be in a candidate pool that you wouldn't necessarily look to recruit from, an opportunity to be seen because of the fact they have these traits, even if they don't have the right experience. For example, they've not had 5 years or 6 years experience, but they're actually pulled to the top of your candidate pool because of their high alignment to what success looks like in terms of a personality makeup in your existing team, which is fantastic. And we've got tons and tons of clients who've seen a much, much higher representation of females at final stage interviews than they had previously, for example, or a much, much more diverse candidate pool that they're able to hire from. And then, as you say, we're giving this data-driven insight to your decision makers. And it's not just about giving this insight to your recruiters, but actually building out questions to ask for a hiring manager, as you say, because we as recruiters, we're interviewing these people a lot, but then how do we support and enable other people in the interview process to also make it very personalized? So within the reports, you get personalized, unique questions to ask your candidates based on the areas of misalignment within their profile. And I think it's also really important what you said there. This isn't the be all and end all. You don't have to reject a candidate based on their results, but it's giving you this breadth and this wealth of data to really inform the decisions that you're making, and their journey really through the company, because you can use this data for talent development and internal mobility as well.
Yeah, and there was as I said, the information educates the ops teams to understand how to interview effectively and also understand what good looks like. We had a situation with our lease and tenancy estate whereby we have lease and tenancy publicans and we have managed partnerships, and the managed partnerships is a far more kind of rigid model. And we thought that the predictive success models that come out of the data sampling that we do with our internal kind of publicans and managed partners would be very different. But what actually came out of it was our profile came out different to what our internal perception of what good looks like came out. So in terms of kind of behavioral traits and personality, but where we saw the slight nuances was within the drivers. So what motivated each set of publican versus managed partnership was quite different. So that gave us and our ops teams the confidence it gives them the confidence to recruit per se, and it also gives them the confidence that they're recruiting against something that's very inset in individuals in publicans and managed partners, and giving them a behavioral Venn diagram, if you like, or behavioral trait profile that's going to reduce risk. I think I said earlier, this isn't about a yes or a no. It's not a decision-making process. It is very much a reduction of risk and gives you data points along the way. And also giving, coming back to that empathy and giving the candidates the best, possible candidate journey. It gives ops teams and us as a recruitment team really tangible measures that we can give candidates feedback. And if they're not quite there, but their profile is fitting, then it enables us to build talent pools for the future, which we're doing much better than we ever have done. So yeah, that's kind of what introducing this platform has done for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as you say, the reduction of risk there is so crucial. And we all know the risk of making a wrong hire, the detriment that causes, not just to P&L, but to cultures and rehiring. So being able to kind of foresee those, and that's what we do, right? We're predicting success, we're predicting potential based on what good looks like in your organization now, helping you make those right decisions at the early stages. And I love that point about motivations. It's why it's so crucial, because actually a candidate might have a similar personality profile. They might be able to do one job, but it's not going to be something that they're jumping out of bed every morning to go and do. And actually, if you've got that candidate, and I say this about Assess First, it's so easy for me to do my job, and it's so easy for me to come to work and do what I do every day, because it's so naturally aligned with who I am as an individual. So it's not busting a gut every day to do the job, and I'm happy to put 110% into making the very, very best situation that I can, because it's very naturally aligned to how I'm motivated and what my natural skills are. And if you can find that natural alignment, that puzzle piece, jigsaw puzzle fit, you're obviously going to be getting so much more out of the people that you hire and bring into your teams.
We've started to see retention rates improve, and that, as an operator, the cost of getting that hire wrong is a real impact on your P&L. And if you look at the impact to the customers, the community surrounding that pub, the actual kind of training, the cost of actually recruiting and attracting as well. It costs each ops manager about, in the region of £40,000 per person. So reducing that risk and being able to have the confidence to recruit better is really crucial.
Absolutely. And then finally, just moving on to candidate reports, I saw a few people in the chat talking about feedback, and it's tough, right? It's very, very difficult to give objective feedback that is also going to be beneficial. And that's why we created our candidate report. So the second a candidate completes their assessments, they actually have access to all of this information, which tells them their strengths. It gives them areas of development. It identifies what motivates them. And ultimately, this is what gives such a positive candidate experience, and it's really helping that empathy and drive that impression of who Assess First are and what we give to our candidates. Because whether, almost going back to your the candidate story that you mentioned, candidates are interviewing with so many other companies. If they've got 5 competitors, like, what is it that's going to help us as one company stand out? Well, actually, if they're getting this very, very positive candidate experience, it's going to help the buoyancy of that candidate pool, and you're giving candidates something to take away. If they're not successful within this process, they're going to know why, and you can base that feedback around the data points in their profile that show to them, actually, your personality did align very well. We can see that you're capable of doing the job, but there's a ton of your motivations that just don't align with this culture. And we know that if we were to hire you into this team, we wouldn't be getting the best out of you, and you wouldn't be that motivated to continue to perform. Whereas in another organization, you may find that. So yeah, it's a really crucial part for us to create those empathetic processes to really understand our candidates and make sure we're giving back to them as well.
And yeah, the reports have been fantastic. Actually, they're super easy to understand. We can send them. That there's an automated send to the candidates, so they have that as an experience and understand their own kind of personality traits and drivers much better. But also, the reports create questions. So if a candidate is falling short of a predictive success profile, we can ask questions during the interview process to relate to those traits as to areas to probe and that kind of thing. So it really does create the tools for the ops managers to have those interviews and set those interview questions. Where we've kind of, I've got a lovely story of a pub in near Lulworth Cove, and it's a premium food pub. It's kind of it's out in the sticks, so it's not easy to get to. We felt that it was it was going to be a loss maker. It took us a little while to find the right people, but looking at different ways of recruiting and not looking at the traditional kind of experience enabled us to open up a complete new market. So we found people that ran holiday parks that went into this pub, and we have literally seen the pub double in turnover and profit, which has been incredible. But what that's also enabled us to do, and this is in the winter months of a seasonal pub, so it's been incredibly successful. These guys didn't look like the traditional kind of experience that we generally look for, but they've proven to us that they have been super successful, which is a really good news story. And now what we've done is open up different markets. It's almost opened up the minds of our recruiters as to also think about what other areas can we look at that we know now, if we take that risk, is going to be, well, it's a calculated risk, right? Because we've got the profile to recruit against, but the operators still see that the opening up of experiences as fairly risky. So it's kind of given us the confidence to look at different markets and open up different talent pools.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, and so lovely to hear as well, you know, the difference that it can make, as you say, just kind of broadening our mind, challenging our own existing limitations really when it comes to who we're hiring and the backgrounds that they come from.